listeners. Welcome to Fire Talk Tua, the world's only Twin Peaks and Hawk Tua Girl crossover podcast. I'm your wicked game master, Connor Lloyd Crews, and joining us, also this is Cinema Curse episode 43, actually. We're talking about Fire Walk with Me and the Missing Pieces. It's Twin Peaks Club Volume 8. Joining us for the first time on Twin Peaks Club, the Joey Chestnut. I should have thought of a Twin Peaks variation of this. The Leo Johnson of talking about movies, Edwin Gomez.
It's pause the game. I was killing a.
He's playing Fallout 4 in honor of Kyle MacLachlan and the new Fallout series, only on Amazon.
Yeah, that was totally unintentional because I started playing it like very early in the day. I just killed my son. I killed everybody. I just brutally massacred the whole place.
Should be saying this on air.
Yeah, man. They're robots. I don't think they care or anything. But game rules. I have a lot of mod guns, so that's why I was able to kill them all pretty fast.
Well, also here, wait, I don't care about this. Let's move on. It's Robert Benfer.
Hey. Hi.
Also, Scott Heaton.
I'm here.
Hello, everyone. Good to see ya.
That's a nice. Is that a new Beyond Fest shirt from this year?
It is. It's from this year's. Yes.
Hell yeah. And
it glows in the dark.
Oh, nice. Hurricane Milton survivor Jason Steele.
Hello.
Yeah, we've been trying to do this episode for weeks
He's a
now.
multiple hurricane survivor.
Yeah, I mean, so am I, but you don't see me bragging about it. Several weeks ago, we tried to do it, and Bobby's internet was out, and then a couple weeks ago, Jason was in the middle of Hurricane Milton and dozens of tornadoes tearing up Florida. And then last week, I was out of the state, and so we're finally here late November. I want to say thank you to Marina Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of their song Curse off the EP Sheet Nods for our opening. It's been 349 days since the strike ended, and the AMPTP still sucks. We got a lot of stuff to get into, so let's start. We're going to talk about Fire Walk With Me in two parts today. And we'll talk a little bit at the end about David Lynch's habit of narrative bifurcation, which is something that I feel like most of his movies do, have like a clear part A and a part B, not necessarily first half and second half. Oftentimes it's not anywhere near the midway point that it happens, which is true of this for sure. It's you know, I would argue, I don't know how you would structure this exactly. I feel like the movie almost has like a 3-act structure once you get to the second part. Maybe. But like usual, I'm gonna go through the plot and you guys just interject. Part 1, I've labeled the FBI. We open with the very subtle smashing of a television.
By the way, before we even open with the music, just the music there is amazing. I love the music in this movie.
Angelo Badalamenti is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like that opening song is one of my favorite movie themes of all time. It's just one of the moodiest pieces of music ever written.
It's kind of I'm like, the more I listen to it, the more it's like clearly kind of a riff on Sycamore Trees from the end of the show, I think, in terms of like the flow of the melody. It's not exactly it, but it's like a weird like halfway point between Sycamore Trees and the main Twin Peaks theme in certain ways. I'm creating a video is maybe the wrong word for it. I'll call it a mixed media collage called Lady Dreams of Hey Boys, and that's been a big inspiration. So keep a lookout for that. I'll announce it on Cinema Curse when it's there, and it'll be on my YouTube channel, unlisted to be fair. So I don't know how I'll do that because technically it contains footage from somewhere I did a test edit for, but also they didn't pay me. So fuck it.
Hey, that television smash.
Yeah.
David Lynch, often known as very inscrutable, but honestly, I think I think there's a lot of stuff he does that's pretty direct.
Yeah, he's taking notes from Diane Keaton. We open with Chet, Special Agent Chet Desmond, played by famous musician Chris Isaac. He's like arresting kids on a bus. Everything sucks compared to Twin Peaks, which is pretty funny. Which is kind of a bit that continues with like the evil sheriff's department. Like everything in this is like the anti Twin Peaks, where everything is just like shit. Everyone's an asshole, and yeah. We get this scene that's behind me with Gordon basically being like, "Hey, Chet," and Kiefer Sutherland, "Look at this," and then some lady comes out and does a weird dance, and it's a big coded message, which is a fun little thing, and he does it, but they don't decipher the blue rose, which I don't think they explain here, but I mean, clearly that's a Project Blue Book reference, right? Like that's what I've always thought. Like the blue is a reference to that, which if people don't know is a real group within, what was it, like the Navy or something, that investigated, or the FBI that investigated UFOs. So
what I love about this scene in particular is it's really the only time that I can recall in like a David Lynch thing where like he knows that people were trying to desperately decipher previous things and going in wildly different directions than his original intention. Yeah. And this feels like a sort of like, all right, calm down, everyone. Here's a little bit of help in understanding some of the things are pretty literal. Yes. So it's just an interesting scene from that standpoint. I like it.
Sometimes a shitty sheriff's department is just a shitty sheriff's department. Edwin, what do you think about this opening sequence and the dance and all that stuff?
It kind of sets up what the movie's about to be. It kind of gives you like a story of what's happening, and then after that, boom, gets right into the show, into the movie. Man, I wish I would see it again. I've seen it 3 times on 35. First time, it was like, whoa.
How much of the show have you actually seen? 4
episodes.
Okay,
and that's it.
The first 4, I assume.
Yeah. So, I don't think it was necessary for me to watch the show because I think the movie's a masterpiece. I just got it in an instant while watching the movie. I think it's the most brilliant thing that man has ever done in his career. The most spiritual film ever. And it's that opening with David Lynch is...
Well, his most spiritual film is Eraserhead. Awesome. But
I disagree.
Elaborate on it.
I disagree.
I can't.
Disagree. I disagree. I think this one's more spiritual.
I wish Edwin was around to tell me not to waste my time with that whole fucking... When I could have just watched the movie in 4 episodes. The fuck, that waste hours of my life multiple times.
I think David Lynch himself at some point said that Twin Peaks to him was the first episode of the series Fire Walk with Me and The Return.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
That's really interesting because there's a lot of other things in Twin Peaks that are very good that are not included in there. Like some of my favorite moments.
A little
harsh, buddy. He only smoked 1 pack that day. He was on edge.
Well, that's why the movie's better.
What was that?
I think the movie's better.
Edwin, so wait, when you had seen Firewalk with Me, had you seen those 4 episodes of Twin Peaks yet, or had you seen any Twin Peaks at that point?
I've seen 4 episodes of Twin Peaks. I was really getting into it, and then I stopped for some reason. I think I got distracted by another show or movie. I might just watch Always Sunny right after that because I got kind of bored, so I started watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But when it came to like to those feelers in the Egyptian, I forced myself to watch it. The second time when I watched it, I was like, okay, I understand now. But by the third time I saw it, wow, this really changes everything about it now.
About the show you haven't seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Even though I don't think I need to see the show at all. I think I'm fine with the movie. I'm fine with the movie.
I think in order to have a substantial opinion about the show, you should see it. But it's okay.
I think
You're
all
sort
right.
of like it's like you're like a child, who
but
doesn't know what they're talking about. And it's like adults kind of talking about.
I think the movie really sets itself forward.
Yeah, but there's
the
a whole lot of other stuff in the show. But let's continue with the movie.
The movie also captured those moments too, with the craziness, the strange of the town, the curse, or some other weird fantasy sci-fi shit. Everything's thin, man.
I mean, in some ways you're right, but in some ways like the movie is kind of like a total rebuttal of the original show in certain ways, where and then the return becomes a synthesis.
Screw this guy over.
Well, I mean, like tonally and stuff. And to be fair, we talked about this previously. David Lynch also did abandon an entire, I know he's like an artiste or whatever, and I love him, but he did also
couldn't satisfy him.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the studio. I'm talking about his friend Mark Frost and his buddies, some of the actors who he just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna leave you guys hanging out to dry. I mean, I love David Lynch, but he probably could have stuck around and had more of a say over things. And
well, that's why the movie exists, man. That's why the movie's a masterpiece.
Well, we continue. We get introduced to Teresa Banks through her dead body. She's a drifter with a ring we don't see. Kiefer Sutherland finds the first letter under her nail, something that's introduced in the show. We go to Hap's Diner, another anti-Twin Peaks. Two great lines here that I wrote down. The guy like, now Irene is her name and it is night. Don't go any further with it. There's nothing good about it. And then the really
Wait, sorry. In that scene, there's the lights flashing.
Yeah.
This is important. This is another one of David Lynch's very literal thing. There's a guy, and he's repairing the light.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind when you see the flashing. That he's repairing the light.
And then we get the other really good line with the you want to hear about our specials? We don't have any.
Yeah.
We go over to Fat Trout Trailer Park to wake up Harry Dean. At Teresa's trailer, some old troll lady comes and we establish the electric pole, which I think was this something in the show originally, but there's something here. It reminds me of Ghost Investigations in a way, where there's clearly a connection between electricity and the supernatural in Twin Peaks. And the vibe I get, I don't know, in a weird way, maybe it's just I've seen Twin Peaks so much, or I've lived with it for so long, but for me I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. All the little demon men, they zip zap around through the electrical grid.
Yeah, that's the fire.
Yeah. And we go back to the sheriff's station. Sheriff doesn't want Teresa's body taken. It got the great line, we got a phone here, it's got a little ring, and they ask about the missing ring. And then finally Chet heads back to Fat Trout for the Blue Rose. We hear the arm sounds and Chet finds the ring before vanishing.
Why does he vanish?
Because this is the point in the movie where Kyle MacLachlan's like, okay, I'll do these scenes.
I mean, that is essentially it. He vanishes because his part in the movie is over. That's why he vanishes. Both literally and in the story.
Until the return.
Until the return, yes.
See you in the return.
Is he in the return?
No.
Okay.
No.
Scott doesn't know. Scott actually hasn't seen the return.
I haven't seen the return, so I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Is he in any of the books?
He doesn't come back.
Not really. I don't remember.
The books don't mention him.
Bowie comes back in a certain way in the return in the books for sure. That character is still important, but Chet Desmond is just
goes through a bit of a transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what happened.
back in Philly, we get a great sequence where Coop had a bad dream about this day, and it's kind of a cool where it doesn't really you can't really tell exactly what parts of this are the dream he had about the day and which parts are him on that day thinking about that day. And Coop sees himself on camera when he shouldn't, and then we get it's Bowie time, the long lost Philip Jeffries. And we get the famous, I'm not going to talk about Judy. In fact, we're not going to talk about Judy at all. And the other line, which I think is really, it's interesting when people call this like a prequel, because it is in certain ways, but it's also because of the weird way time works in this stuff. It also is clearly set after the show, with certain lines like Philip Jeffries with the "Who do you think this is?" there, pointing to Cooper, clearly indicating that he's aware of the doppelganger Cooper. That doesn't happen until the end of the original show.
Connor.
Yeah.
Just saying, there is a 35 millimeter scan work print of the movie that goes to, I think, 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours of Twin Peaks. So I guess in that print, there's more plot line and more Bowie and a bunch of other extended scenes in that work print. A friend of mine just sent me the link to that.
That's the missing pieces. Yeah, those have been.
Oh, really?
That's what a lot of that stuff is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the version that I watched to get ready for this episode was the Blue Rose version,
which is like a fan edited.
Where fan edited the missing pieces back into the movie. It was 3.5 hours. So I watched that version.
And so Bobby will be really confused about what things we do or don't talk about as we go along.
Yeah, I watched the version I watched had the extended version of the Philip Jeffries thing.
And the extended
makes more sense.
The extended Black Lodge stuff where we get all the bros hanging out and we start establishing Garmin Bozia / creamed corn / pain and sorrow.
Yeah, I like that.
What do you think about that lore, Edwin? What do you think about creamed corn being representative of like pain and sorrow?
Who's creamed corn again?
The substance creamed corn.
I don't know what that is. So I'm very confused.
It's in the movie.
It's an essential part of the movie, Edwin. That creamed corn is Garmin Bozia, the substance. It's like the spice in Dune, but for evil interdimensional ghosts or something.
The creamed corn must gloop.
You mean the scene where she has this food? Wait, no, that's the food truck scene.
No, literally, during the David Bowie stuff, they cut it. It's fine. We'll move on. We get the Formica table, a convenience store, electricity, just little bits of lore. You know, they don't need to really explain it.
There's a little hole in the table, though. Did you see the little hole in the Formica
what does that mean?
table?
Yeah, I saw that.
Where you put the finger?
That's where the ring is made from.
Yeah.
It's like a ring-sized sized hole there.
Yep. David Bowie.
It's not a super important detail. Just to
interesting. Oh yeah, no. Jeffrey says we live inside a dream and then disappears. / was never there. I don't necessarily love the meta interpretations of the stuff, just because it's like something I know that was a popular one with Inception back in the day, where it's it's about people making a movie, and I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like this, but it works a little better here, and I do like the read. I think Croc, one of my viewers, mentioned that it's sort of like David Bowie's getting edited out of the movie.
Yeah,
as it's going.
Yeah, it is exactly like that. Yeah.
With Chester Desmond, just people being edited out of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like the reason the meta stuff works better here is because this is a Twin Peaks thing in which David Lynch has complete control over, and so it's a lot of the meta elements are easier to keep consistent.
Yeah, and I think it works both ways too. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I mean, obviously,
it doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, because David Lynch is not interested in just doing meta commentary stuff. It is very much a story about people.
Yeah, I think that was where I rubbed me the wrong way when Croc was bringing it up, because he was talking about how the missing pieces were non-canonical with the extra stuff because he was edited out of the movie, and I'm like, I don't know if that's exactly the right way to say that. But Coop heads to Fat Trout to look for missing Chet. That trailer was the old woman and her grandson, little Minnie Lynch, two Chalfonts, which I think is something that's not brought up again till like the very end of The Return. I feel like, if I'm remembering correctly. And then we get Chet's vehicle with Let's Rock on it. What was that, Bobby?
That's the name of the real people that live in that house?
I think so, yeah. I think the Chalfonts are the people. Are they the are they the two different groups of people that lived in that place next to them, where Donna went in the original show? You know what I mean? Harold Smith's neighbor. Were those people? I think were both called Chalfont. I don't know.
No, I've only seen the first 4 episodes in the movie.
And then later, Coop rhapsodizes about the murder before a really great smash cut to the Twin Peaks theme. But I think it's interesting that like more than half of Lynch's movies have this sort of narrative bifurcation with like a part A, part B. This has it. Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, Inland Empire, arguably Wild at Heart when they get stopped at the in Texas, like halfway through. You could argue Dune, kind of. You could argue Blue Velvet isn't as direct, but with like the big night with Frank and stuff. And it's interesting. You know, I think in a weird way, this movie as its own thing would almost be more successful. I know you, Bobby, talk about how you like this first part more, but I think as a whole, the second part of the movie individually is actually probably the more successful thing, I think. Whereas this first part's just kind of like this extended, like, it's some hijinks, you know, with like the FBI and stuff. And then the real emotional meat of this story, I feel like, doesn't start till here. Which is probably my only real... I've never actually watched Firewalk with Me, not in the context of rewatching the entire show. Which I know some people like Edwin here, clearly. I mean, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but do that.
Who's better?
You gotta let a man, you know, go at his own pace. We'll get to episode 5.
Yeah, I feel like the opening part is more important for the metatextual stuff than for any of the textual stuff. I think
and it becomes more important in the context of the return once you get there.
Yeah, and it's also like the metatextual stuff is important in the context of this movie just because, like, you know, David Lynch upset that people genuinely did not care about like this Laura Palmer and about the impact that this death had on people and all of that. And so, like, you know, this movie as a response to that of like, here is the most like emotional story that you've been like, you did not want to be told to you, that you wanted to ignore and just hear the mystery instead, just hear the like, who is the killer. And so like having the opening section like set up the metatextual stuff, and then the rest of the movie is the emotional core. Like it makes sense artistically to me, but yeah, it is definitely two different sections.
Compared to some of his other movies where, like, I think like Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway and Inland Empire become like two sides of the same coin when they flip over, I do think that these two sections feel a little more separate.
I like, and I thought this way during the season premiere, you know, the old man is there just like waving at Coop after he got shot, you know, and, you know, people, I have to imagine they were feeling similar to like, oh, finally, we're getting the Twin Peaks movie. We're going to get some answers and like what happened. And this whole opening had to drive people up a fucking wall. Of, like, happening. I wonder how it connected. And like, was he planning to make more movies or just it?
He was going to make like 4, right?
He's going to make like 2 more movies, I think.
Oh.
Something like that. And I
That would've
think
been cool.
some of those narrative ideas did carry forward eventually into The Return.
Okay, because I could see that, but like, yeah, I guess I wondered what his original goal was for this movie. Because if it was just like, and I get, you know, 2.5 seasons of the movie, if that was, the plan.
I will say,
so yeah.
On an emotional level, I do think the movie does get to a satisfying place where if we couldn't have gotten more, I would have been okay. But that it has to just do with like the centering of Laura, which we should get to. Unless, does anybody else have anything to say about this first section of the movie? All right. No, Part 2, Laura. I got the creepy picture behind me. 1 year later, and this is most of the movie. I mean, the movie's like 2 hours 15 minutes, and this is like what, 90 plus minutes of the film. I think this is really Laura's story. We got new Donna. We see
why was she in this movie?
Moira Kelly.
Because Laura Flynn Boyle had beef with Lynch.
Why?
And I think a lot of it had to do with like I think it's the same reason why Kyle was in this less than he would, because like originally Cooper was supposed to be there the whole time. You know what I mean? Like Chet Desmond is like a plug that they put in when Kyle was like, no, you only got this much of me. And I think in the same sense, Laura Flynn Boyle also kind of just took everything. And you know, I don't want to speak out of school. I don't want to make her seem like, I don't want to lean into like typically sexist readings of things, but it does sound like behind the scenes Laura Flynn Boyle was kind of maybe a difficult person in certain ways. And
but also, as you mentioned earlier, David Lynch did just leave the show.
Yeah.
He did just leave everyone on the show. So,
and compared to everyone else's like commitment, you know what I mean? Like most of these other actors are not having to be in it as much. Like she's probably the character with like the third most amount of screen time in the movie. You know, honestly, she might even have as much screen time as Ray Wise. She's in a lot of the movie. And so I could see her like being like, like I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Laura and James we get a lot of them like sort of just living their lives. It's a lot of like the beginning of Halloween. Laura and James try to hook up while Bobby stalks the halls. I like this exchange. James saying, "You're not a turkey. Turkey is one of the dumbest birds." And then Laura sadly, "Gobble gobble." And the only reason some of this kind of stuff works is because Cheryl Lee is so good. She carries
one of the greatest film performances. It's just astonishing.
Like whatever you think about the rest of this movie, and I still like a lot of the rest of this movie, she carries this movie like fucking Sam and Frodo at the end of Lord of the Rings. Twin Peaks now with boobs, which there's another update. I like the little scene where Bobby is mad at Laura, but she wins him over, where we get to kind of see like Bobby's weird kind of innocence comparatively. Again, setting up kind of where Bobby went in the series and beyond in The Return. And I like that song, that like A Real Indication song that they made when he's like, that weird like talk rap song. We get Donna crushing on James, and then the very heartbreaking when they talk about space, and Laura thinks that she would just spin faster and faster and faster, and the angels wouldn't help you. That's the one thing I'll say. This is clear. Like Fire Walk with Me is obviously the darkest chapter of Twin Peaks. Like if you were going to individual it out, I mean, even The Return, as dark and weird and stuff as it gets, like on an emotional level, it's never this intense and fucked, I think. But her diary pages are missing. Laura visits Harold and gives him the diary. She knows about Bob. He's been having me since I was 12, and he says he wants to be me or he'll kill me. And then she sort of yells, "Fire Walk with Me" at him and turns all creepy. And then she smooches him and leaves him for good. And presumably he never sees her again. we kind of going back to that idea of Bob wanting to be the fan, another electrical appliance. We hear Bob saying, "I want to taste through your mouth" to her. Some fucked up stuff. I don't like saying all this. I don't like I don't like having to think about this. We get a little cut back to we get a little cut back to Philly. What is that, Edwin?
Is it fucked up to say a spoiler about the movie?
No, you go ahead. You can go ahead and say, yeah.
All right. No fair. Bob's her dad. Just saying.
Well, to be fair, if you've seen the show, it's not a spoiler.
I just wanted to ruin that part because I thought it was funny. But yeah, Bob's the dad this whole time.
Yeah.
Spoiler for all of those who have only seen the first 4 episodes of Twin Peaks.
The first 4 episodes and the first 50 minutes of Fire Walk with Me.
I mean, they could have seen the show.
I hope you put the lights on there.
Yeah. No, we kind of. I feel like with the Twin Peaks episodes, we always assume that people have seen. If you're watching the section we're talking about, you've seen all of this section because. Or you just don't care about spoilers.
It's not a watch along.
Yeah. But
we're sitting here watching the movie together.
Yeah, we're discussing it. I mean, we're recapping it, I guess, if you don't want to watch the show and you'd rather hear a bunch of chuckleheads recap it. You could kind of follow along.
Honestly, if you do that, you would have no idea what we're talking about, though. There's no way to
yeah, no.
Well, then this happened, then this. It's like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. We get a little cut back to Philly. Coop makes predictions about the next murder. I like Albert's. Well, damn, Cooper, that really narrows it down after he describes just like a girl, teenage girl in trouble. We cut back to Laura doing Meals on Wheels. She meets the old woman in Minnie Lynch. They give her the picture, which is behind me, and tell her to hang it up in her room. And they mention that he is under the fan now. And she skedaddles back home where she finds Bob in her room and flees before seeing her dad leave. And she doesn't want to believe it. And it's interesting because the movie does kind of play an interesting thing where if you hadn't seen the show, it's weird because if you've seen the show, okay, Edwin, when you saw this for the first time and you saw this part early on, did you go, oh, her dad is Bob for sure, or did you go, maybe her dad is Bob, and then you weren't confirmed until later in the movie? Because I'm curious.
No, I kind of knew.
Yeah, I feel like the movie tells you that Bob is her dad. Doesn't try to hide that information in any way, which obviously because you're supposed to watch it after the show, but I feel like you could see a version of the movie that does try to pull that, does try to keep it completely under wraps until because Laura isn't totally sure until later in the film, until she actually sees her dad on top of her. I'm sorry, everyone. At the
one because we're talking about it, I do like that David Lynch at the wheel has much less empathy for Leland Palmer than the episode in which Leland Palmer dies in the show. Spoiler for the show. David Lynch had left at that point, and his death scene where he's like, "Oh, I see the light. Oh, I'm going into heaven, and Laura's there, and we're being reunited." And all of that. And it's that scene in particular always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I do like in Fire Walk with Me that it's David Lynch just has less empathy for Leland Palmer as a person.
That's interesting. I think it just has to do with whose story it is. You know what I mean? In a certain way too, because this is Laura's story. Because in a weird way, and we're gonna get to this in a second. Actually, here there is some sympathy for Leland for sure, because I think that clearly Bob, not clearly, but in my opinion at least, Bob represents the way that abuse is a cycle, and this thing where Bob wants to become her is, and the fact that in the show we've set up that Leland himself was clearly abused as a kid, and so I think that's one of those things where yes, obviously IRL, if Leland was doing the things he was doing, I would not have sympathy for him the way I do when watching the show. But in the context of like the story of the show and like what Leland represents and like that abuse cycle that he himself has like become succumbed to, I do actually have more sympathy towards him, you know?
I have more sympathy towards him in the sense of like, you know, understanding him as someone who went through that, but also understanding like, you know, the show definitely presents it as he ultimately had the option to not do these terrible things in the same way that Laura gets the choice later on, and like he made the evil choice, which is what, you know, let Bob take control of him.
I don't think it ever really bothered me, but I can see what you're saying. We get
it's just like a little thing. It's not like I think that it like ruins that episode or anything. I just like this version of Leland's portrayal better.
It's definitely the most menacing Leland, which Ray Wise is good at. We get speaking of, we get a pretty bad family dinner around here. Leland.
Oh yeah, that is maybe the most uncomfortable scene in the movie for me. Like
Leland berates her for her hands and fingernails. Sarah's like, calm down. He also gets weird about her necklace. I really like, this is one of my favorite stuff in the movie. It's really upsetting, but I really like the way they explore the Palmers in the movie. It's you know, it's kind of like old school true crime versus a lot of more modern true crime, I feel like, in a weird way, versus where you were mentioning this earlier, Jason, where the old school stuff like really just focuses on the mystery and the aftermath and stuff, and I do like. Again, I think the strongest thing about the movie is the really like the focusing of Laura at the center of her own story. And
this scene is, I think, the most powerful for me in the movie, because like when like abuse is depicted in films and media and stuff, like a lot of it is the most extreme elements, the sexual abuse, the things like that. And this is such a great scene because it's so obviously like a extreme instance of like psychological abuse. And it's, you know, when you think, why does someone not go to the authorities? Why does someone not go to whatever about this? And like, just imagine like trying to explain that you've been abused in a situation where it's like, my father told me to wash my hands for dinner. It's like there's no way to describe it in a way that communicates how abusive it was. But you watch the scene and it's just devastating. It's just harrowing.
We do, again, I think this is one of those things we were just talking about, where the metaphor versus real life kind of rides the line here, where the Leland part of Leland later is clearly distraught and apologizes, and Laura kind of understands that there are two parts of him. But this in itself is abuse. I mean, that is a real thing with abuse, where these people will wear these like two masks, and in some ways, like, neither of them is really the full person. They're just like a fucking enigma weirdo who's just doing everything to manipulate people. And then she hangs this picture up, this cool picture, and we get maybe my favorite scene in the movie, where she has a dream, and we like go into the picture and enter the lodge. We see the Formica.
I like that shit. That's shit that I like.
Yeah, you like the spooky stuff. You don't like the sad stuff.
That spooky. Yeah, I don't really like the dad rape stuff.
The dinner scene in Fire Walk with Me kind of reminded me of the dinner scene in the Fractaplots, your sock puppet movie.
It kind of was like that.
Were you inspired at all by Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me?
No, I don't.
Fractaplots?
I don't think I was.
Right.
No. I would have never.
I don't know how many people
watching
are familiar with the Fractaplots.
I don't think
that's an old video, or is it a full movie?
It's a movie I made 14 years ago. It's a sock puppet thing. The only good scene in the movie, honestly, but I would have never even thought about that.
Maybe subconsciously.
I don't know. I don't even know why Jason's thinking of that. Why the fractoplots? Oh man,
It's always on my mind.
We see the Formica table with the ring on it. Coop, presumably post season 2, or maybe Bob is there. This is something interesting, is because the ring. I will say, like, I have a hard time. Is the ring protecting her from Bob, or is the ring opening her up to Bob? It seems to be protecting her, but then, like, what exactly, like, are the intentions of the arm? It's interesting. What do you think about that, Jason?
I mean, it's the she does get protection from Bob in the sense that Bob is not able to kill her. I mean, it is like symbolic of her rejecting the abuse cycle. But what the ring means in like the deep lore or whatever, like it's. I don't have like a clear picture.
Yeah, because that's what's interesting, is because the ring in that sense, you would think the ring is a good thing, but then why is Coop telling her not to take it?
Yeah, like I think it's because Coop like sees the results of her taking it, which is her death.
Oh, okay.
But maybe does not understand, like, because later on when he ends up in the lodge, like he clearly makes the wrong choice, which lets Bob in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it makes sense to me that he would tell her not to take the ring, because that's ultimately the choice that he makes when he's presented with a similar situation. But I think he's just wrong there. Like, I think he's just like,
that makes sense. I didn't think about that. I almost thought that maybe that was already the doppelganger that was like trying to trick her. You know what I mean? Which, you know, maybe it could be that too.
Yeah.
We get the I am the arm and I sound like this. The whoo. Laura sees Annie in her bed. This is another reason why this isn't really a prequel, and gets a message to write in her diary. And then the picture is now of her in the doorway, and Laura gets rid of it, because I would too. If I hung up a new picture at night and then I woke up and it was like that. There's like a Stephen King short story about it called "The Road Virus Heads North." Terrible name, but it's a great short story. People should read it. Where someone like picks up a painting at a garage sale, and it's like of this like weird, like horrible looking car, and then as they're driving away, it's like the picture becomes the car outside of the garage sale, and there's like all this blood everywhere, and they're like realizing as they're moving that the painting is following them, or like whatever this horrible thing is in there. Anyways, good short story. Watch it. Edwin, what do you think about?
I would have kept the painting.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fun.
Like, I want to see how this plays out.
Give it to Zach
Magic
Baggins.
painting, that could be worth some money.
Put it up in Zach Baggins' haunted museum. Edwin, what do you think about this? Hey, we get the ceiling fan. Look at that. That's creepy. Run, Edwin's.
Yeah, look at that. Edwin's. I should have went the Edwin route with the camera thing.
Edwin, what do you think about the spooky? What do you think about the dinner table scene, and what do you think about the spooky painting?
You mean the painting where the bunnies come out and then Bob comes out as well?
Nope. The painting where she goes into it.
Can we see your bathroom?
Oh.
Can you show us your bathroom?
I wasn't gonna go to the bathroom, but
Can I see your Fallout, please? Can you switch the camera around to Fallout?
it's trying to be paused right now because I'm charging my phone and.
What are you staring at?
Well, I'm actually gonna put on my pants because I was gonna head out in a bit, but I wanna.
I hope you take us with you.
Yeah.
No, because my signal will die on the phone. The dinner scene. I mean, there's multiple scenes that. I mean, it seems like the mom knows what the hell's going on, but she's not just saying anything. She's like run its course. But by the end, like the shit has already hit the fan. I think it's pretty disturbing. Like, you know what Ray Wise does. I mean, I mean, he just goes off the minute like something's wrong and shit like that. And I I think Ray Wise is the most scariest human being in this movie.
You're saying you don't approve of the things Leland does in the film?
You wouldn't want him as your daddy.
Strong stance to take.
Just I think he's one evil son of a bitch.
Did you like him in Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie?
Haven't seen that one.
Okay.
You should. You should. He's got a great part. You'll love his scenes.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
We go over to the Johnsons, where we get Leo. Pretty funny. Leo. I mean, it's fuck that he's abusing Shelley, but I do love his. The first thing you're gonna learn is to have a good attitude. That's the key. Anybody will tell you that. And then Bobby calls Leo about coke. A deal is made. And then we get one of the longer, I would say, sections of the movie. Probably the longest, like, continued section. I've labeled it the long night, where Laura is dolled up when Donna comes over, but Donna can't come. Laura has a little brief meeting with the log lady up at the roadhouse, and then we see that Laura is basically, prostituting herself with the help of Jacques
Cool.
up at the roadhouse.
OnlyFans.
Yeah. And Jacques sets some guys up with Laura, but there's something really, like, profound about Laura listening to Julie Crews when she's, like, walking in and just crying, listening to her. I mean, again, I wrote like 10 times just how good Lee is in my notes, and but there's something just, like, there's a very simple, obviously what's happening to Laura is beyond the scope of, like, what most people go through, both in the like literal sense that there's, like, fucking demons and shit going on, but, like, also even if you were to take that stuff out and, like, to remove the metaphor. But there is something also just about the idea of, like, going to a place and hearing a song and just crying that is very relatable, I think. Where you're just like, man, life fucking sucks right now.
Sounds like my apartment.
Yeah. Donna tries to join Laura's party, and Laura plays chicken with her via smooching these guys. Laura eventually relents. They go to the Pink Room up in Canada for a long subtitled sequence, because there's a fucking grungy ass slow, what did you call this, like a slow rock song or something?
Yeah, the song that never ends.
Just like a grease
or changes.
Grease solidified into a song.
Yeah.
If Jacques saying I'm as blank as a fart, and Laura saying that she's the muffin, which we'll get back to that when we talk about the missing pieces. Donna gets roofied. Laura
says a lot of weird things in this movie.
Yeah, I wonder why. Laura does some very dirty dancing. Ronnie shows up for the first time, or not, Pulowski. We find out that Laura was thrown out of One Eyed Jacks. They did something together previously. Party Twins, High School Sandwich. And specifically, they talk about Teresa, that she was, like, blackmailing someone and asking about dads. This is the first time where this part of the movie really starts to connect to that opening. Because there is a little bit of a connection to the opening in this, like, section here. They get invited to the cabin, where we know all about that from the show. Laura does this snap that she does in the show, where she's like this to get her pussy ate. And before seeing Donna with her boobs out and running out of there with her, and then we get a shot. Yeah, go ahead.
That particular, like, that scene of her just screaming her head off and getting Donna out. Like, I think that's, like, a key moment for Laura Palmer that ultimately leads to the final decision she makes with the ring.
Yeah.
Of her rejecting this cycle and making the moral choice that leads to Bob not being able to take her over.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And it's like Cheryl Lee in that scene too. Like there's so much that goes into that scream that she makes. It's just I just think that's a very powerful scene.
A lot of cigarettes on the floor. I wonder how many of those were David's. The next morning, Donna's home but doesn't understand. I like Laura's little "life is full of mysteries" Donna line. Laura doesn't want Donna to be like here. This kind of goes in what you were saying about Laura's heart, where she like, you know, like clearly Donna is sort of they talk about this a little more in the missing pieces, but like Donna has this kind of self-consciousness to her, like what she perceives as her prudishness compared to Laura, but you know, Laura is kind of like like you don't like this is there's like damage here that's actually going on. Leland shows
like
up.
She's like the Joker. She's damaged.
She is damaged, like the Joker. She should be Harley Quinn. Think about that. Hey, Cheryl Lee.
I will.
You should be.
I will go think about that. I miss Edwin.
Yeah. What's Edwin doing?
He's walking around. He's going for a walk. He's pacing around.
Getting some nature, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries.
I didn't know what to say.
I like how the frame rate on Edwin's phone makes the ceiling fan look like it's very surreal, slowly spinning around.
Or like a helicopter, like super fast. Or is that what's actually happening? I don't know.
I think that's what's happening. It's literally the building's taking off.
I couldn't tell you. It's too tight.
We get this kind of blended sequence.
Twin Peaks shit.
Where
it is some Twin Peaks shit.
We see this car ride with Leland and Laura that's kind of blended with also these flashbacks tying Leland to Teresa Palmer. Mike shows up, tries to warn Laura.
Mike shows up with the sound that the orb says is his sound.
He accuses Leland of stealing the corn. Which he did.
Yeah, he did, but it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous dialogue. It's just it's out of context. It's hilarious.
More about Teresa. Leland sets up a date with her and her girlfriends. I do love the match cut where he's like on top of Teresa and we hear Laura say, I don't know if a match cut is the right word exactly. That's like the first thing that comes to mind. And we hear Laura say dad, and Leland turns in the flashback, and then it cuts to him looking at her in the car. That's like a really good edit. And in the past, Leland saw Laura and bailed, and Teresa realizes what's going on. This kind of leads into her blackmailing him, which we kind of mentioned earlier, and Laura remembering the ring on Teresa, and we see the murder of Teresa, which is actually that opening with the TV getting smashed. And we get that little scene that I like where the kid is hopping around the parking lot, and that song, about? The black dog runs at night. The black dog runs at night.
What's with the jumping kid? What's with the jumping kid?
That's a little Mini. That's Mini Lynch.
Okay.
That's one of Lynch's sons. Night moves. Laura hits up Bobby for coke. They go out for a score with a bunch of flashlights and stumbling around. And Laura plays too much for Bobby's liking in this sequence. This sequence is really, I know it's supposed to be kind of disturbing maybe, but it's also one of the funniest sequences I think in the movie, because Cheryl Lee is so funny the way she's reacting to everything, where she just can't like, especially the did you shoot Mike? And then Bobby's like Bobby like halfway convinces himself, and he's like, is this Mike? Yeah, I guess Bobby does kill a guy, which is something they mentioned in the show. But it was kind of, the first shot was out of self-defense. I would say the second shot where he shoots him in the head, less so. But, you know, whatever. He's like a drug dealer dealing to kids, so I don't really give that much of a shit.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Also, like, if if you were in this situation and you shot the guy, like you might want to finish it off. If the guy isn't dead, you're definitely dead.
Yeah.
I'll give Bobby a little bit of a break there.
Yeah. This is the worst, easily the worst thing Bobby ever does, because Bobby is my special angel, my special boy, my maybe my actual favorite character on the show. Later, James, his forehead growing more mammoth by this moment, shows up at Laura's to berate her, and then I wrote the Palmers for this next section. The Palmers, it sucks here. Leland gives Sarah some milk. She's being drugged because Sarah's also part of the abuse that's going on. You know, she's like also being abused. Leland turns the fan on. Sarah sees the white horse, and Bob rapes Laura, and she fully realizes that Bob is her dad. This is like when it completely, I think, like she has no more reservations the rest of the movie, and we especially get that the next morning with that awkward breakfast, which is heartbreaking. But I also do love the way that shot of Cheryl Lee looking up like at her father has been kind of memed, where like Cinemark or something will be like, Icy is mommy and Popcorn is daddy, and someone will post her like horrified look at Leland as a reaction. Leland seems to understand what she now knows. She's just dying up at school. Gets coke from Bobby. Later she gets lit and takes a call from James and fumbles with the phone forever.
The scene where she gets coke from Bobby. That's what on the couch, right? Is that scene? I that's one of the moments that like made me really like Bobby as a character. Just him like asking like you're just here for the coke, right?
Yeah.
Right, and like realizing the truth of that, even though she's denying it, he realizes the truth of that, but like he loves her and is like, all right, if that's the role that I'm in your life, then I accept that.
Yeah,
it's a really sad moment for Bobby.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I feel
guys like that.
I feel bad for Bobby, you know what I mean? Because it's not like he's cheating on Laura, obviously. I mean, she's cheating on him, so turnabout and all. But like, you know, Bobby, like you would think in like in a more, and the original show does this, and obviously the return furthers this even more. But like, I do like that Bobby, like you can see a version of Bobby who grows up to be Leo, but that's not who Bobby is. And Bobby is clearly a much more sympathetic, much more empathetic person, and he isn't really that bad of a guy, largely speaking. Like, he's just a dum-dum. He's just kind of an asshole at times.
Dubious, morally dubious.
Yeah,
he's an asshole kid.
And Laura agrees to meet James and regrets it, and then the angel disappears from her painting. James picks her up as Leland watches. There's some drama.
Not a good omen, by the way. If you if you do omen tracking, angel disappearing from your painting is a bad one.
Some drama stuff. She's mean. Even in this movie, I feel like James is the least compelling part. Best part of this is when she's like, "What about this, James?" And then it cuts to a wider shot of her just flipping him off. On the way home, she jumps off the bike and runs off after yelling that she loves him, and James just leaves, I guess. He's just like, well, whatever.
She leave her in the woods or whatever.
She ran off to the woods to have zoomies, I guess. Up at the cabin, Laura meets up with the party crowd, and they go to do cabin stuff at the cabin. We all know about the cabin stuff from the show. Waldo. This is kind of where the movie definitely starts to converge with like a lot of what we know happens from the show, and then it speeds up. It definitely doesn't spend as much time on this as it would have if we didn't already kind of know what all these beats are going to be. We do get a Waldo cameo, which is fun. Things get rough. Leland knocks out Jacques. We get to hear Leo yell, "Shut up!" one more time before he skedaddles and basically disappears from Twin Peaks forever. Leland shows up and grabs the girls as Mike tries to come help. we get to the train car. Great creepy shot of them running with the very unreal. I love like the flashlight is on them, even though technically it should be pointing forward, which is a very cool like non-real effect. Very simple thing that they did. What we know would happen happens. Kind of the biggest revelations here that change to the degree that we do know what we do know versus like what we get revealed here is that one, we have this little moment where Bob always thought Laura knew it was Leland. He didn't even like, Bob never suspected that Laura could perceive Bob as an entity. And then the angel reappears. That's a good omen. And pushes Ronnie outside the car to Mike. Throws the ring inside. Laura puts the ring on, and Leland kills her and wraps her up in plastic. Edwin, what do you think about this section and Laura's death?
Well, you know, it happens. The once Leland finds her and kind of like the whole scene is so wild and disturbing, and with the loud sound effects attached to it, and also the flashing lights that are going all over the place. It's the most intense scene in the whole goddamn movie. It's so brutal until you get to
the climax.
Yeah, I know. That's some of the best piece of filmmaking I've ever seen from a David Lynch movie. And as soon as she dies, and as soon as she goes to the Red Room, and as soon as like she encounters the angel, and then that's how you know, like, after all this insanity, she is now free. She is now complete, basically. I teared up. I teared up to that last scene because it is the most spiritual thing I've ever seen in the David Lynch movie, and that's why I think that's his best out of everything he's done. It's impactful. So, fuck you, Connor.
I mean, I like the movie too. I think you should watch the show.
Nah, I think the movie.
I think you'll like The Return too.
I think the movie kind of sets it up for me. I think the movie's great.
What's your
The
what's your favorite part of Fallout 4?
What? I like the Valentine stuff a lot. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, at the end of the movie, Bob heads to the Grove in LA. Leland is trapped inside. Leland bobs around while Mike and his arm watch. I want all my pain and suffering / Garmin Bosia, and Bob serves it up and gives it back to him. We get a little Jack Nance hand cameo, I assume that's his hand. And then the scene that Edwin mentioned, which I'll agree, we get a kind of some version of a happy ending for Laura. A happy may be the wrong word, but a peaceful ending. And I agree, a very emotional last scene.
No, for sure. It's like, especially with Angelo's score, just like so orchestrated, so right in your face and impactful. It's literally the best thing in a movie could ever see ever. And also, I mean, spoiler alert, she comes back in Return.
Well,
I didn't know it.
That's,
you ever seen it?
It's complicated.
It's complicated. I don't know if that's like. I mean, obviously they were going to bring the actress back, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Half of the cast that wasn't dead already.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the movie, they go to the diner and there's the light that's flashing. Mm-hmm. It's flashing with a very specific pattern, and they specifically draw attention to the fact that there's a guy there fixing the light.
Yeah.
Like they take they take this moment to show you that, and this is an instance of like the symbolism here, like being very literal. David Lynch cares a lot about the balance between light and darkness, the balance between good and evil, and I do think it's interesting that when the angels show up, the exact same flashing light happens, and like these are the angels here fixing the light. restoring the balance.
Nice. Yeah, I never caught that. It's the same like light pattern, like the flashing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's the same pattern as the light from the diner, and like a lot of this, people will go into like great detail deconstructing these movies and their symbolisms, but like for me, a lot of the most important symbology is very direct, is very literal. It's not like you don't have to create like a graph where you're linking up different glyphs.
It's not like Christopher Nolan in Tenet or something where it's
it's
you create like a line, like it's very emotional based like symbology and very straightforward. Like you feel it in your gut if you can't understand it in your head.
Yeah, so like in the beginning where you have the woman in the red dress and like the guys explaining what the different like movements she did meant, and they're all like very literal. It's like word puns and stuff like that, and so when they then immediately go to the diner and you have the flashing light and it's a guy fixing the light and stuff, and then showing the light again, it's like it's not super hard to decipher some of this stuff. It's also not a, you don't need a big graph paper and stuff linking everything together.
Just a beating heart.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more time how fucking good Cheryl Lee is in this?
She was really good.
So good in this.
Was she in anything big outside of Twin Peaks?
Not really.
Bam.
That's crazy. Wait, didn't this movie do like when it first came out? Like, wasn't like people laughed at it at the premiere?
Oh yeah,
people hated this movie. Yeah,
like people were making fun of it at the premiere.
It's funny because I know a couple people who are like that with The Return too, and I'm like, oh, you short-sighted fools. History repeats itself. This is like that. This is like that trailer for Megalopolis, but for real. Not just a bunch of bullshit. Edwin?
Yeah, I linked this movie in my head with like The Thing, or even like Speed Racer, movies that like movies that came out and were like critically panned, but are actually masterpieces.
What are you saying, Edwin?
It's my time to leave, good sir.
You got anything? No! You got anything final to say about Fire Walk with Me?
Come on, man.
I still think it's probably his best movie, right next to Elephant Man. It's the most superior thing he's ever done in his career. I mean, raise your head, but I think Twin Peaks has more of that, has more heart, has more spirituosity that man has given us.
Spirituosity, I love it.
Performances of all time. Whoever booed at it, they can all go fuck themselves.
I'll agree with you with that. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're all in hell now.
Exactly. You're like the thing. You're all blind by genius of what this man has created. So what? I haven't seen the fucking show. Who gives a shit? The movie's amazing. And I have the DVD right.
I think you watch. I mean, who gives a shit about the DVD? We got better versions of it now.
We got the Blue Rose fan in it.
Don't you have a fucking New Line home video DVD, motherfucker?
No, the VHS of that. Come on, man.
I could get one.
I got my New Line home video DVD. $2, motherfucker.
You got
VHS. That's the best format for that.
You got that shit on Laserdisc, bro?
I could get one.
Yeah, you got a VHS.
Yeah, you know what, Edwin? I think you should spend your money on a Laserdisc of Fire Walk with Me, actually.
I want like a fucking face of this movie's masterpiece-ness.
Yeah, you'll shove it in my face and I'll be like, what? Why are you doing this?
Oh, man. You're wrong.
You gotta get the iTunes rental.
Did this movie ever come out on PSP UMD?
That'd be so funny. Yeah, David Lynch, he disapproves of watching on your phone, but the PSP UMD format, he was a huge proponent of.
He originally was going to make the return just for PSP. That was his mistake, but they couldn't soundtrack, the contracts involved.
I'm taking off.
All right, bye.
Come on.
All right.
We should switch to the missing pieces, unless anyone else has anything.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Edwin! Jason! Yeah, Jason's right. I'm leaving too.
Yeah.
All right,
Be right back.
It's happening. See you guys later. Oh!
Bye.
The missing pieces. Oh, wait. Everyone's leaving. What are these? We got some missing pieces here.
Wait, hold on.
Are you turning your image back on? Oh, you're fading in.
No, I'm a little here.
So
I lost a big part of myself when Edwin left.
So what are the missing pieces? They are, if you watch them by themselves, here I got this cutout image of Cooper.
Wow, that's Two-Face.
Yeah. It's basically 90 minutes of deleted and extended scenes that about 5 years before the return, so like a decade ago now, David Lynch himself edited and assembled into a 90-minute long movie, kind of, I mean, not really a movie, it's like a companion piece essentially that you watch. And I'm gonna skip over, I'm not gonna recap anything that we've already just recapped. I'm only gonna mention anything that's like that's new. Yeah, some of these are really straightforward, like the first one is just more of the feds talking to those people at HAPS. That's it. The second one is the sheriff Ben Steele in an attempt to stop them from taking Teresa's body. Chet punches him in the face 10,000 times, and then also Ben Steele.
That's one of my favorite scenes from
The Missing Pieces.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to do it. Sorry.
Oh hell yeah.
What is that?
Murder mystery game.
This came out in 1991.
Oh fuck
Whoa.
yeah. Have you ever played it?
Yeah, it's not very good.
Is there? We gotta look if there's like a version of that on like Board Game or Tabletop Simulator, so we can like play it for a special one of these or something.
The goal of this game is literally figure out who killed Laura Palmer.
And does it give it away?
It's
no, because they didn't know.
Oh, okay.
This was made before season 2 came out.
Is it just Clue?
Are there different options?
Twin Peaks must surely be the strangest town in America. Scarcely a day goes by without some weird occurrence.
Like a girl being raped by her dad and murdered.
Yeah, man.
Third,
people turning in the knobs. Normal shit.
Third missing piece, Coop and Diane play a little game, which is where we get this. You didn't get to see this little picture behind me.
Oh, wow.
We get a little scene between Coop and Keith, and this whole thing clearly like the sweatiest David Lynch dialogue I've ever heard, where it's like, oh, Chet has his own MO. He's a completely different character. And not just a bunch of paste we poured over this Cooper-sized hole in the movie. We get some more Bowie time. He's at a hotel in Argentina looking for Judy. Electricity pole. And it's kind of extended versions of the things we've seen in the movie that like aren't intercut, essentially. Back to the convenience store. Philip arrives at FBI headquarters. Who's at one of their meetings. He knows about the ring. The electrics go nuts and Philip disappears. And then my favorite part of this is Bowie zaps back to the hotel while burning the wall and scaring a guy who's like, the shit, it come out of my ass. Which I don't know why they didn't keep that in.
That's like a I don't know, that it's more like a Robert Benfer line. Robert Benfer's Twin Peaks.
Mr. Jeffries.
Bobby and Mike talk about football. Who cares? All right, this number 7 is one of my favorite bits. Palmer family stuff. Sarah's cigarette. Later, Sarah confronting Laura about lying to go get some books. Nice little scenes with Grace and Cheryl. And I'm hungry. Leland helping everyone practice for the Norwegians. Like Leland coming in and doing like the "I'm hungry," and then they have that nice, like genuinely nice Palmer family moment. And this is one of the scenes I really wish actually had been left in, because I think showing the fact that there are good times, because that's real. You know, in an abusive family, there are going to be good times where where the abuser isn't a total asshole. And
it also like shows you what has been lost through this. Yeah, like what is being sacrificed in for this evil.
Number 8, Laura hooks for a trucker. Okay. Number 9, we get the first of a series of missing pieces I'm calling Peaks Pals, because they are scenes that just exist to have characters from the show. And while some of them are fun, I 100% get why these were cut. Peaks Pals 1, up at the mill, Andrew, Josie, and Dell argue about how wood works. And Pete gets through to Dell by talking about inflation, which is a really funny moment.
I love the resolution to that. It's very fun. Does a dollar go as far as it used to?
That can almost play before the movie as like a short, like
yeah, like it's like a Pixar short before a film or something.
Peaks Pals 2, up at the diner, Ed and Nadine see Norma, and it spooks Nadine. And I like the quietness of all this. It kind of previews the return. Shelley and Norma are sweet, giggling German, etc. Peaks Pals 3, up at the Haywards, Laura and Donna hug it out. Donna talks about being a prude. This is kind of some of the stuff I was mentioning earlier, because she's considering fucking Mike. We also get this setup where she's like, "Do you want a muffin?" And Laura's like, "Honey, you are a muffin." And then as she's leaving, Donna says, "Goodbye, muffin." And Laura's like, "No, you're the muffin." "No, Donna, you're right. I am the muffin," which is set up for a bit that's still in the movie, and now it just reads like, okay, I guess Laura's talking about being a muffin.
Yeah.
Doc does a magic trick. He lets some Laura smoke there because he loves her so much. Eileen shows up with huckleberry muffins. Doc gives Laura.
Yeah, I like that scene, the smoking.
Yeah. I do. This sequence has a lot of little beats that I like. I like Doc giving Laura the secret message about the angels returning before Leland calls. It's nice. And I think this is probably out of all the Peaks Palace scenes, this is one of 2 that I think probably would make the most sense to put back in the movie, just because Donna is actually an important character in the movie, and so having her parents show up for a scene would make sense. It
also makes sense with the light dark contrast stuff, you know, that Lynch puts in all of his stuff, because like this is like a more loving family unit in contrast to the abuse going on elsewhere.
Maybe my favorite cut bit, Laura and the fan.
That's shit I like.
Yeah, whenever she's that shot, I had a gif of it earlier, but the shot of Cheryl Lee where she's like slowly getting that huge rictus smile while the lights are flashing on her, such a great creepy moment. And then like Sarah not being able to find her sweater, and she says it is happening again.
It's happening again.
Clearly, setting up that Sarah is being like drugged constantly and her brain's being fucked with. We get one little shot that's like the outside of a church, which I think is just lead in for more of Leo being like a galaxy-brained asshole dipshit to Shelley. Peaks Pals 4, Ed and Norma's date. They have a breathalyzer he got from Harry. They listen to faraway music, which is just I assume in the real movie it would have been a different track, but in the missing pieces it's just the theme again, which is fine because it's a great track. Nice little moment. What were you saying?
It's a good one.
It is a good one. Let's skip over some of this stuff. So more of the long night in the car with those guys racing around. They do a donut. Donna doesn't do coke, and Laura yells at her. The one guy pees, and he says he's choking the farm fed, which I don't get.
Choking the farm fed.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I listened to it multiple.
Choking the chicken.
He says farm fed. Like I didn't know what he was saying too, and I got like subtitles for it, and I like looked and I was like, the farm fed what?
The choking the fart head what?
Yeah, choking the fart head.
Yeah.
They go to a back room of this pool hall where there's that Canada, do, and US of fucking A sign, which is pretty fun. Mike chills with some candles. We get some extended Teresa flashbacks. The only notable thing here being when Teresa, for me at least, when Teresa calls Jacques, and Jacques describes Ray Wise as he's handsome like a movie star. I'm gonna skip over. I need to write some of these are literally just like half a second scene, and you're just like, I get why they cut this. Peaks Pals 5 is up at the station. Hawk and Andy and Harry, they're gonna set a trap for a drug mule, presumably the guy who Bobby kills. I think is who they're talking about. Bobby gives Laura the money that she had in her box on the show. She's still giggly about the murder. Bobby checks the goods, and it's baby laxative.
It's a pretty funny murder. It
is a pretty funny murder. Here's another Peaks Pals that I think you probably could have left in, which is a call from Jacoby. Laura does cocaine, and they talk tapes. I do. It's a good bit. They probably should have elaborated on why he shouldn't call. Because I mean, I guess I get that they don't. That Leland would probably be upset, but it feels a little vague, I think. Laura doesn't like asparagus. Laura and Sarah have a nice goodbye moment. And then another Peaks Pals that you probably could have kept because it's the parents of a character who's actually important. Up at the Briggs is reading the fucking Bible aloud while his wife knits when Laura arrives. And I do like this interaction where the mom says, like, Bobby's in the basement, and Laura goes, like, right where he belongs, right? And Briggs laughs. That feels like a very real moment of, somebody joking around with, like, their partner's parents. Bobby and Laura in the basement extended. Like, the scene we see in the movie is, like, in the middle of this scene, essentially. I like when she says, kind of half jokingly, what is the world coming to when you kill a guy for baby laxative, which like almost makes Bobby laugh some, even though he's obviously freaked out about killing someone. Gives her some coke and pills, and a little more of Briggs and the wife. Back at the station, we get Lucy in a scene where people keep spooking Lucy by creeping up on her. And Andy gets spooked by her too because they creep on each other. Hijinks. And a mention of Catherine, even though Piper Laurie is not in the movie, not even in the missing pieces. Leland arrives home. This is a good bit. Leland arrives home as Laura is waiting for James, and it seems like he's looking right at her, and is still going to be outside when James arrives, which is a creepy little moment. The log lady here screams in the distance and cries. Another good short bit. We have one whole bit. It's like as its own scene where it's just a shot of Laura's body floating. Where I'm like, this isn't really like a whole scene. This is like unused footage. And then finally, probably the most substantial like scene, I think, in certain ways, is we get an epilogue some months later, so post season 2. Annie is brought into the hospital. Inside the lodge, Coop sees the ring is missing, and Arm talks about future and past again. Coop kind of surmises that Annie might have the ring, so hopefully protecting her from Bob. Coop is still stuck in the lodge, and we get this nice shot where the sound goes out and we see Coop's face like hovering over the red room, which reminds me a lot of some of what The Return does towards the end.
Yeah.
And then Annie at the hospital has the ring and says what she says to Laura. A nurse steals the ring, and we get like a extended version of the How's Annie scene. Was this shot for Fire Walk With Me? Because it looks like exactly the same set or something. Or was this like a bit that they cut from the original show? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look like they...
It felt like it was cut from the original show. It did, like, I couldn't tell for sure, but it really felt like it was just shot at the same time.
Yeah. Because it very well could have been, because it doesn't really advance the story at all. It's just like a joke where he makes a joke about how it struck him as funny because he hit his head on the wall. And then we get credits over looped footage of creamed corn. Yeah, so, you know, missing pieces are good. There's like a couple, especially some of the like at the Palmer residence stuff that I think kind of probably I think probably much like how when I watch most like director's cuts that are like really extended, I'm like I like my favorite version is probably in the middle. You know, like I feel like there's a couple of scenes like the fan, some of the good times with the Palmers that I do kind of wish were in the movie because I think they're such good scenes. But then there's a lot of stuff that even though I like watching it, like the sawmill scene where I'm like, yeah, I get why they cut this.
Yeah, if this movie had been made later, those would have been released online as like promotional shorts.
Yeah. Like the Breaking Bad thing, where we find out that like Hank hooked up with like a trans woman or something. And real quick before we move on from Fire Walk With Me and the missing pieces. You know, even though the missing pieces came out not that long ago, this really does become the long wait. I mean, I watched the original show and Fire Walk With Me in high school. And so, you know, this is a fucking decade before I got any sort of satisfaction. 2.5 decades for people who watched it at the time. Like, does I remember being largely satisfied if this were we ended because we do have this emotional, as pictured behind me, emotional like catharsis for Laura at least. But what about you guys? What did y'all think during this sort of gap?
I want to know what happened to Coop. Well, other than that, I don't know.
Where Coop at?
I don't really care where Coop at. What about Coop? And Annie.
How's Annie?
Leo, my favorite character, Leo.
Yeah, did he get out of his trap with the scorpions?
Looks like not.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
Who shot him?
It seems to be implied that the Coop doppelganger, but in the book that they showed up and just it's like another loose end tied up.
Yeah, I saw Twin Peaks when I was a teen, like the show, and I saw Fire Walk With Me when I was in college, going to film school, and I didn't like I really enjoyed it all. Although, like, I got more into David Lynch stuff a few years later and kind of rewatched everything as part of that, and like really came to love him as a director. And I don't feel like I ever really like the mystery in the show was for whatever reason, like I just never really cared so much about that stuff at the time. Just especially like Fire Walk With Me, like just as a film, like I do think it works really well as a standalone, even if you haven't watched the series, like Edwin.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't personally feel like I was waiting for a resolution.
Largely. Yeah, I think just knowing that they had more movies planned. I always wanted to know. I always wanted to see what they had intended, just to see the rest of that. But
no, that for sure too.
So that always bothered me, knowing that there was more planned.
And hey,
like, what are those other movies gonna be?
they were able to do it, and whatever you think about the ending, at least the ending that time was completely intentional.
Yeah.
And not just them not being able to finish something.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad they got to do it.
no, definitely.
Even if fucking they couldn't, like, half the fucking cast was dead or
gone crazy,
saying weird things about gone crazy
or went missing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's time to move on to Connor's Wicked Games, sponsored by Chris Isaac. Every week, like Jigsaw, I like to play a little game. This week, Twin Peaks Roll Call 2, TOO. This is a continuation. We've done a version of this. We'll probably do a version of this in the future. It's a little. I updated the rules a little bit. This should be a faster paced games than some of the ones we've played.
Okay.
Because only one person will be able to score off of each question. I'm going to give y'all 3 films and characters from the filmography of a major actor on Twin Peaks. First one to blurt out the actor or character they play on Twin Peaks, or even like a decent description of their role on Twin Peaks, gets the points. After I read the first film, everyone will get I'll pause, everyone will get a chance to guess. If you get it right then, you get 3 points. After I read the second film, you'd get 2 points. The third film, 1 point. So for an example, I could say, who played, who was in Showgirls as Zach Carey? And then I'd wait a beat, and then I would say Dune as Paul Atreides. And then I'd wait a beat, and Blue Velvet as Jeffrey Beaumont, and whoever yells out Kyle MacLachlan or Cooper or whatever gets the points. And when I say major actor, I mean that all of them, in my opinion, are notable, known characters. It's not like a waitress or like Nadine's coach.
What about the old man who shows up in those 2 episodes?
Which old man?
The old man at the bank.
Honestly, him, yes, I would count him. That's like the lowest. That's like the lowest level. Like if they have like a notable scene, they count. And I'll also go ahead and say that all of these are from the last time we did this. It was the original series up to Leland's death. All of these actors are in, or at least at some point in, the episodes after Leland's death and in Fire Walk with Me or The Missing Pieces.
It could be that old man.
It could be that old man. There's no actors who weren't in that. Like if there's an actor from the first season only, they're not here.
Michael Cera.
Yeah, or Michael Cera in the third season. There are 2 catches. One, some of the roles will be redacted, and you'll see why when we get to those. Those will be towards the end. And 2, there's going to be a little riddle at the end for some extra points. So pay attention to the actors that I'm mentioning. So we will... I'll start. And so, like I said, first person I hear it, and I'll be fair. I'm a benevolent game master.
You're a fair guy.
I'm as benevolent as I am wicked.
The game we should be playing is Where the Hell is Edwin?
Yeah.
Where in the world is Edwin?
So here we go. The first movie this actor was in was Veselka, the rainbow on the corner at the center of the world, as a narrator. Any guesses on who that could be?
You say the name of the movie?
I said the name of the movie is Veselka, the rainbow on the counter at the center of the world, as narrator. I just didn't understand any of this. This is a movie. They were also in Zoolander as J.P. Pruitt.
David Bowie?
Not David Bowie.
David Bowie was himself in Zoolander.
That's right.
Hello, so this is where a Zoolander game I'd win. Owen Wilson.
They were also in the X-Files Fight the Future as Special Agent Fox Mulder.
Oh, the fucking Albert. I mean, the actor that plays Albert.
David Duchovny.
That's Jason.
Oh wait, yeah. Albert's not in.
No, that point goes to Jason.
Albert is not in X-Files.
Wait, what is this rainbow movie?
I don't know. It's just
what is this?
It's some movie that he does the narration for.
David Duchovny.
Wait, he was in Zoolander?
Yeah, he's the hand model.
The one who tells us, yeah.
Oh,
the conspiracy.
yeah. He's the one that does the
Next up, next actor. I'll try to be gender neutral when I say actor and they and that stuff. Not give away stuff. The Virgin Soldiers as Soldier. Any guesses on this one? They were also in Zoolander as himself.
David Bowie.
I'll give 2 points to everyone because everyone said it like basically at the same time. And then they were also in The Last Temptation of Christ as Pontius Pilate. The other one I had loaded down here.
What is this Twin Peaks Zoolander connection?
Next up, this actor was in Memphis Belle as Lieutenant Val Kozlowski. Any guesses? They were all what?
Kiefer. That's Kiefer.
It's not Kiefer. They were also in Zoolander as himself.
Fred Durst.
Billy Zane?
That is Billy Zane, who is also in Titanic as Kaladin in Hockley. Next up, we've got Cake as Pippa McGee. Who's this actor? Who was in Cake as Pippa McGee? No guesses? They were also in Scream 2 as Stab Casey Becker. As Stab, in quotes, Casey Becker. No guesses?
Stab movie?
What was that?
In the movie within the movie, in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were also in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me as Felicity Shagwell.
Any chick.
Yep, I'll give it to Bobby. Yeah. Like I said, you don't need to. You don't need to know the actress name. It's Heather Graham as
Heather Graham,
Annie Blackburn. Next up, this actor was in Beverly Hills Chihuahua as Delgado.
Man, and I've seen Beverly Hills Chihuahua. I've seen all Beverly Hills Chihuahua movies. I've seen all 3.
They were also in Iron Man 3 as Vice President Rodriguez.
Oh.
It's on the tip of Scott's tongue.
I could picture him. It's the special agent. It's. I can't think of it.
They were also in RoboCop as Bob Morton.
No one's getting it.
No one's getting this one.
David Bowie.
Nope. Already did him. Is that a pass all around?
Yeah, it is a pass. Yeah.
That is Miguel Ferrer as Albert.
Fuck.
Next up, we've got this actor who was in Imitation of Life as David Edward. Yes, the old David Lean movie, or whatever that guy's name is.
Never saw it.
They were also in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch as Connell Cochran.
I have not seen that one either.
And lastly, they were in RoboCop as the old man. No RoboCop heads here today, I guess.
The old man?
Yeah, he was the old man. He's like the boss of the company.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm gonna take that as a pass.
Yeah, I don't know whose name. Yeah.
This is Dan O'Harely as Andrew Packard, Catherine's brother.
Oh yeah. Up. Yeah, no, he was a RoboCop. All right.
Yep. And he's the bad guy in Halloween 3. Next up, Mannequin 2 on the move as Jewel Box Bearer. Who is in Mannequin 2 on the move as a Jewel Box Bearer.
4 episodes of Mannequin.
They were also in Night Trap as police officer.
Oh my god.
Never seen that one either.
Oh Jesus.
I'll give Jason a second here in case he can pull this out before I give this last one.
I don't think I'm gonna pull it out. I have the performance in my head, but I don't have the face.
They were
Like,
also in Tiptoes as Bruno.
I haven't seen any of those 3 movies.
What was that, Scott?
I've seen Tiptoes, but I don't. Peter Dinklage? I don't remember.
I don't think Peter Dinklage is in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I don't know.
Peter Dinklage is the arm.
No, nobody wants to give a guess. Like I said, you can guess a character name too. If you don't know the actor.
Bobby.
Nope. This is Michael J. Anderson as the man from another place, aka the Arm.
Oh.
Wait, he was in Night Trap?
Apparently, a movie called Night Trap, at least.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of the FMV game.
It might be that. It might be that. I don't know.
He wasn't in that though, so it probably isn't that.
This next actor was in Scream 2 as Gus Gold. I don't remember any other Scream 2 actors.
Scream 2 and Zoolander and RoboCop.
Whoa. Gus.
They were also in, speaking of movies I've already mentioned, Titanic as Spicer Lovejoy.
Oh my god.
Spicer Lovejoy.
Great name.
Spicer
That is a good
Lovejoy.
name.
That was the name of the iceberg, I think.
Yeah.
So it was ironic. It was an ironic name.
They were also in The Omen as Keith Jennings.
Yeah. I just can't bring up any faces right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
This was David Warner as Thomas Eckert, aka Two-Face, as we called him. Next up, this actor was in The Happening as Sure Shot. I don't know. It's been a while since I wrote this. I don't know which movie called The Happening that is. It might not be the M. Night Shyamalan one. I think there's another movie called The Happening.
Sure Shot.
They were also in Argo as Jack Kirby, which is funny. And they were in the Kevin Smith movie Tusk as Howard Howe.
What was the second movie he was in?
Argo as Jack Kirby. No guesses for Tusk as Howard Howe, Scott? Scott, are you there?
Scott, don't leave us. We already lost Edwin.
We've already lost Edwin.
Come on, man.
We're suffering so much.
Scott.
I feel like you would maybe know this one. Scott.
Come on, Scott.
All right, I'm gonna have to move on here.
Scott's Googling.
Yeah. This is Michael Parks as Jean Reno.
No.
I almost included Kill Bill instead. This character was in Wedlock as Noel. Anyone ever seen Wedlock? This actor was also in Judge Dredd as Ilsa Hayden.
Never saw that. Never saw that one.
And lastly, they were recently in Dee Dee, the Dee Dee movie, as Chung Sing Wang.
Jody?
Josie, you mean, but yes.
Josie? sorry, Josie.
That is
Jody.
Joan Chen as Josie Packard.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Next up, This actor was in Con Air as a man driving Volvo. They were also in Far Cry as General Roderick.
The game?
I don't think so.
Oh.
And lastly, they were in Stargate Continuum as Lieutenant General George Hammond.
Is it the Briggs?
Yep, it is in fact
I
Don
typecasted
Davis
him.
as Major Garland Briggs. I mean, honestly, y'all should just be guessing character names.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Donna Hayward.
Yeah. This next actor was in Zoolander 2 as himself.
No, I never saw Zoolander 2. Son of a gun.
I
Kiefer
did.
Sutherland.
3 points for Scott. It is in fact Kiefer Sutherland.
I was trying to think of somebody who would be
if he
famous
was
enough to
himself,
be.
it had to be somebody like famous. It wasn't going to be
Yeah.
you know, like.
Yep. All right. Here we're getting this last grouping. This is when it gets really hard.
Oh boy.
Even though you pulled, that was a good 3-pointer you just pulled out. This actor was in Time Bandits as the Supreme Being.
Is he the fireman?
No, that's a
Is
good
that
guess. Though.
Leland?
No, that's a good guess. They were also in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me as narrator. What was that, Scott?
No, the narrator of Austin Powers?
Yeah, apparently. And they were also in Twins as Professor Werner. Any guesses on this one?
I kind of remember the professor, but I can't.
Is it the guy who got bitten by the weasel?
It is not. That's a good guess, though.
Is it Dr. Chico?
No.
His fucking face. Okay.
It is Tony J as Dougie Milford, the first guy who dies to Lena Milford's sexual wiles before she moves on to his brother.
He did a narration in Austin Powers.
Yeah, what?
Apparently.
What is his role?
This actor was in The Hidden as Jack DeVries. They were in Cloverfield as Lieutenant Colonel Graff. And they were in Gotti as Frank DeCiso. Any guesses on this one?
Also Heather Graham. With your game master, you're putting.
No, this is Chris Mulkey as Hank Jennings. Next up, this actor was in The Silence of the Lambs as SWAT Commander. They were also in That Thing You Do as Uncle Bob. And this is where the redacted. This is where the redacted comes in. This actor was in Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me as redacted.
Wait, that
Bob?
I'll say when I do that, the clue I'm giving you is specifically it's one of the actors who was in Fire Walk with Me, not the missing pieces, by the way. Also, and it should also, like, when I do that, you should also, like, take into note that this person has a limited filmography.
Yeah, I guess so.
Who did he play in the previous movie?
Uncle Bob in That Thing You Do.
He was in SWAT team leader and
Silence of the Lambs. No guesses?
FBI agent at the beginning.
That is 1 point for Jason. That is Chris Isaac as Special Agent Chester Desmond.
Chester, that's his name, yeah.
Next up, we've got this actor was in Down, aka The Shaft, as Mark Newman. Excuse me. They're also in Gladiator, not the one you're thinking of, as Tommy, the Bridgeport bomber Riley.
I don't know.
And lastly, they were in A Few Good Men as Private Loudon Downey.
Oh, James?
Yes, 1 point for Bobby. That is, in fact, James Marshall as James Hurley.
I just know that he's in A Few Good Men.
This actor was in Teeth, the movie about the woman with the teeth in her vagina, as Bill. Remember that character Bill from Teeth?
Never saw it.
They're also in Home Alone 3 as Burton Jernigan. Which I'm not making up. They were in Home Alone 3 as Burton Jernigan.
The best
Johansson?
What was that? Oh, no. That's a good guess. And they were also in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me as Redacted.
Ray Wise?
No.
Oh.
That's a good guess. He would be in something like Teeth.
And Home Alone 3.
Yeah. This is Lenny Von Dolan as Harold Smith.
Oh.
Okay, and then we've got these last three. These last three are just cruel, I gotta be honest. First, this actor, well, it'll be obvious it's an actress pretty quickly, was in The Lion King as Adult Nala.
That's
Beyonce.
Moira Kelly.
3 points for Jason. You didn't let me get to the bit where the next two movies I was gonna list were she was also in The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride as Nala and The Lion King 1.5 as Nala. But in fact, that is Moira Kelly as New Donna.
Yeah, that's like the only the only thing I know that she's been in. I know that she's been she played Nala in the Lion King. Yeah, adult Nala.
Next up, PG Psycho Gorman as narrator / adjudicator. This actor was also in Time Cop as Senator Utley. Remember Senator Utley from Time Cop? They were also in The Aviator as Thomas Norval Hepburn.
Ray Wise?
No.
David Bowie?
The guy running the RV park.
Harry Dean Stanton? No.
Yes.
Any guesses?
No, I don't.
This is Kenneth Walsh as Wyndham Earle.
Oh,
Whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
And then lastly, this actor was in How to Make the Cruelest Month as Professor. They were also in, I included this for Edwin, 1941 as Private Hinshaw. And what were you saying, Bobby?
Ray Wise?
No.
David Lynch? David Lynch.
They were also in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me as Redacted.
I'm gonna say RV guy again.
Harry Dean Stanton? No, unfortunately not.
Dang it.
Colin McLaughlin.
This is Walter Alkowicz as Jacques Renault. Who was a private in 1941, apparently. And here's my riddle, worth up to 5 points. And here's a possible hint.
Here we go.
This, if I didn't give this hint, this could be harder for Scott. But the fact that I'm telling Scott that it could be harder, I think should make it actually put people on equal footing in a weird way, because I'm pointing that out. What do 3/4 of these actors and actresses have in common?
They've all come back for the return.
You're close.
They were in Zoolander.
You're close, Scott.
They were in Fire Walk with Me. They were in Blue Velvet.
You're really close, Scott. You're closer than anything Bobby's been saying.
They all come.
They all did not come back for the return.
I gotta give the bonus points to Jason. That's it. They all none of like 3/4 of these actors did not come back for the return.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but it doesn't really matter. Jason was already in the lead. That's a gold medal for Jason, silver for Scott, and bronze for Bobby. Hey, Naira, in the chat, another episode of the Talk to a podcast. We got some.
So you got to start at like 10:30 p.m. like I do with my stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of going also for like the post afterwards, like put it on YouTube and stuff. Scott, we got a couple little segments. We've been going long, so let's keep them short. Scott, are you good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right.
All right, welcome to Scott's Comic Corner, brought to you by Eric Clapton and the Devil All Diner. So anybody that has been following this knows that I'm mostly a Marvel guy. Especially I've been following their From the Ashes storyline. But it's October, and October is a big month for DC. So this time we're only going to be talking about DC. They're doing their big All-In initiative. So the big All-In special, it's actually a double comic. You flip it over, and it's basically explaining the new Absolute Universe. So this side is the regular DC universe. It kind of like it stems from Superman's Hope. It's been a minute since I read this. The new one stems from Darkseid. So the heroes are more the minority than they are in the majority. It's gonna be a whole storyline. I'm not sure how much I'm going to follow it. But this is the beginning of a whole bunch of stuff for DC. In fact, I also jumped on board of Batman this month because in October, all DC titles, they're either getting a new, completely new team or all the new storylines are starting. I also jumped on board Wonder Woman because it's being written by Tom King. I really liked his run on the Penguin. That was a miniseries that just ended a few months ago. Worth checking out. I'm sure the paperback will be coming out pretty soon. But then the big one for this Absolute Universe is Absolute Batman.
I really want to check this out.
Yeah, written by Scott Snyder. It was interesting because it starts out. It's very much like the Marvel's Ultimates. So it's an alternate universe, And the first time it's like, okay, it's like Batman but different. But by the end, it really did feel like, okay, we are reading a Batman story. And yeah, the characters, their relationships are going to be somewhat different, but there's enough in it that it feels like a interesting new take on Batman. That being said, I think said 1 of 5. I don't know if it's going to go like that's just the first story and then we keep going. I got to be honest, I'm not sure how interested I am in reading like a whole new Batman and DC universe because like next week, tomorrow actually, is Absolute Wonder Woman. And then I think in 2 weeks, it's Absolute Superman. And those are the first 3, but I know they're going to be eventually doing Absolute Flash, Absolute Green.
Flash I'm interested in because it's Jeff Lemire, who I really like.
Okay.
But so I'm interested in what's going on there. But I do want to check those out. And I want to check out Harley Quinn, too, because it's being written now by Elliot Kalin from the Flophouse, which I love.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, like I said, DC is the big month for October is the big month for DC. It's their all-in special. So if you're thinking about jumping in any DC titles, now's the month to do it.
Nice. And now we're gonna go to a segment I haven't done in almost a year.
Oh.
Frasier time. Frasier is back. The new series of Frasier is in fact back. Still fun. Still not as good as the old show. Alan, Frasier's new buddy, is still probably the highlight. He's like he's not like Niles on a personality level, but he fulfills the Niles role in the show where he's like the guy that Frasier gets into schemes with, essentially. And but he's like this old tenured professor at Harvard. He's played by a British actor who's like been on a bunch of British sitcoms, and he's basically just like the stereotype of like the tenured professor, just doesn't give a fuck about anything. And it's really fun. They get into some hijinks. There's a kind of weak Roz episode, but there's 2 solid episodes. One that is really Alan focused, where that like ends with basically Frasier's son is a firefighter, and he's seeing this therapist that's at the firefighter office, and Frasier's like, why doesn't he talk to me about this stuff? So he like steals a file from her, and he's like, oh fuck, this is unethical. So he enlists his buddy Alan to go help him back, and as Alan is trying to put it back, they're confronted by the therapist, and so Frasier has to run a therapy session for this other therapist, because she's like, oh, you're the famous Frasier Crane. And as he's running this therapy session, the stuff he's saying is also doubling as instructions he's giving to Alan as he's trying to figure out a way to unlock this thing to put the file back. And of course, shit keeps going wrong. Like he bumps into an axe, which like falls and like cuts a punching bag, which swings through the room and causes all this shit to happen. And there's also a pretty good BB app. They brought BB back from the old show. People don't remember that character. She's the Frasier's evil agent, which was fun.
I've seen the whole original series a while ago. I haven't seen the new one.
It's fun. It's good. It's one of those things where it's like, you can tell if this was given the old sitcom treatment, it could be great, but it's kind of hindered by the fact that they don't have. I understand why this would be stressful for some people, but like if they had to do like 20 episodes a season and really like refine it and get it down to like a science, I think that discipline and that precision is missing. But you can feel them like it's definitely like, you know, the second season is, I would say, overall better than like the first season, and so maybe by like season 5 when it gets canceled, they'll have like great on par with the old show. And then because Jason is here,
Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't have much to say. I'm in the middle of God Emperor of Dune. We'll have to talk. We've been talking so much about stuff, so we should probably move on. But I did just get to that part in the book where Leto's like, I remember the memories of Adam and Eve, and actually Adam ate the apple first, and because he's a guy, it gave him the big brain move to blame Eve, which is literally something that happens in the book. Yeah. It's a great
the Buck Wild book.
Yeah.
My favorite Dune book.
Yeah, I'm excited what you were texting me about Chapter House Dune, which you're reading right now. Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that for a second?
It turns out the Jewish people left Earth and went to space and secretly spread out throughout the universe and have maintained their identical culture thousands of years into the future. Where
Jason, we're talking about Dune, enough current events.
So they just have there's the secret society of space Jews and that
have the exact same culture and society as Jewish people do now.
So the Bene Gesserit are like having these conversations with rabbis, and the rabbis are like, the Bene Gesserit basically stole everything from us.
Yeah.
They're like, we have our line of succession through the female line too, and that's something the Bene Gesserit stole from us. And they start going through the list of all the ways that Bene Gesserit is like Judaism, and it's deeply weird. and it's apparently something that Frank's son dropped from the story after Frank died.
I wonder why.
Dad, I love you, but we're just gonna.
Yeah. No disrespect to your memory.
So yeah, they are. I just reached a point in the story where I've discovered that they are in fact trying to build Israel in space.
Hell yeah.
So.
How many books are there in this?
I gotta jump back on this Dune. Yeah.
There's 6 core books that were written by Frank, even though they don't. So he wrote the first 4. My understanding is pretty separately. Like he wrote the first one. He probably had ideas for the second one, but then he wrote the second one. But then the idea was he was going to write 5, 6, and 7 as a trilogy to finish it off. And he wrote 5 and he wrote 6 and then he died. And and then his son wrote 10,000 other books, including a 2-part Dune 7, which I've heard is not good. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Anything else? I'd love a motherfucking end to genocide and Palestine Congo, Sudan.
I didn't bring a segment.
You didn't bring a segment. I got to see a IMAX screening of Stop Making Sense the other week, which was really cool, and also the Penguin's been really good. I haven't watched the episode from the other day, but the episode before that, which was like an origin for the Sofia Falcone character, was really fucking good and really upsetting. Like the middle parts of that episode, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is fucked, because it's basically about her like time in Arkham essentially, and it's just like a fucking nightmare.
Have you seen any of the Penguin, Jason?
I haven't seen I only saw the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any yet. Yeah.
I'm watching the newest one tonight.
Nice.
After my stupid stream.
Yeah, I'm planning on watching them. I just haven't caught up yet. Yeah. But I like it so far. It's one of the shows I'm most looking forward to continuing.
Yeah,
I love the Penguin. So
no penguins yet.
No penguin. Not a single on-screen.
I wanted to have a penguin army like Batman Returns. Penguins with rockets on their backs. I want him to bleed green goo out of his mouth. Come on, let's do it.
I'm gonna do the inverse of this show, and I'm gonna do a show about like a mob bot, like a guy named Tony Soprano, but he like rules with like penguins with like little rocket launchers on their back. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Next Twin Peaks Club will be late November. We're gonna do an interlude first before we get to the return. I think we might not get to the return until the new year, to be honest. Interlude. The interlude. We're gonna talk kind of about. We're going to talk briefly. So my Twin Peaks Club plan was an extension of an old show, and on the old show, when I was creating all of this, I was kind of excluding certain movies we had already talked about, like Wild at Heart and Lost Highway. Specifically, the interlude, we're going to talk about Mulholland Drive, because it started as a spinoff of Twin Peaks, starring Audrey Horne, apparently, and Inland Empire, because it's the first thing he shot digitally on that level, which of course he continued into The Return. And I just think aesthetically, it kind of feels like like the beginning of the era that includes The Return. And but we'll talk briefly if anyone wants to talk about any of these other movies. But the next episode next week, we're doing a Halloween special where we're going to talk about The Substance, the new movie. Yeah, scary. We're going to talk about The Watcher, which was Edwin's pick. We're going to
wherever the fuck he is.
We're going to talk about the Terrifier movies, which I've been catching up on, which we'll see what I think about those. I'm going to talk about Puppet Master 2, because we talked about Puppet Master last year, and we're talking about all sorts of other stuff. I want to thank Brian Robert for composing our outro. I want to say follow us on Instagram and TikTok, CinemaCurse666. Please like, subscribe, smash that like button, share this with your friends, share this episode with your local shut-in. Have I done that before? Share this episode with your local shut-in, your local agoraphobe. They're gonna really have a good time with the series. I think it's gonna make them feel less alone.
Share it with David Lynch.
Yeah, and
send it to David Lynch.
Maybe not. And I think that is just about it. So thank y'all for joining me, and I'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.